In this tutorial, I am going to show you how to create an LDAP collaboration to sync Active Directory with ACM. But before we start, let's go over some important notes. ACM and Active Directory collaboration sync in one direction, from Active Directory to ACM. By design, ACM does not have the ability to update Active Directory. Each collaboration can sync one Active Directory server. So if you have multiple Active Directories that you need to synchronize, all you have to do is just create multiple collaborations with Active Directory, one per server. Any identity created directly in ACM is not affected by the collaboration. Let's go over some of the prerequisites before you start the configuration. In this process, the end user IT department needs to be involved from the beginning. They are the ones who will provide you all the necessary information to create the configuration in the ACM collaboration. Another important aspect is you need to make sure that your ACM appliance has the appropriate license in the software. And I will cover that when we go to the software portion of this video. The end user IT department will have to provide you some very important information. Here's some of the items that you need to have before you start the configuration. So you need the IP address or host name for that Active Directory server, the port where that server is listening for communication, the username and password with the right access on that Active Directory, so allow you to connect to the Active Directory and create the synchronization. And also all the necessary fields in Active Directory that will be synchronized with ACM. That's the portion where when you go to the configuration part in this video, you will be able to link or map the items between Active Directory and ACM. So those are the basic items that you need before you start this configuration. If you need to take a note of those things, this will be a good moment for you to pause this video, take a note of the information down here, make sure that you have that before you start your configuration. Now we're going to log in into ACM and start the configuration process. So you need to enter a username with admin permissions to the system. And one of the things that I mentioned in this video before, so if you want to check your license, all you have to do is just go to Appliance, and then in Appliance you go into the About screen right here, and you should be able to see your license in one of those lines. I have a lot of other licenses in here, but at least you should be able to see this one, the Identity LDAP pool. So this license will allow you to create a Active Directory collaboration in ACM. Also, it's a good idea to be running ACM in the latest version, and the download is free. Just go to our website under the support section and you'll be able to download that and just update the system. Again, it's always a good idea before you do the updates, make sure that you do a backup of your entire system and then go and proceed to the update. All right, now with that being said, let's go ahead and go to collaborations. And we're going to create it. You see that I already have a collaboration here that is configured and ready to go. I'm going to show you this one, how this runs, but first let's go and create one so you can see how that works. So here it is. You go ahead and click in this Add New Collaboration button right here. Does allow you to go and enter the collaboration name. So we're going to call this Active Directory collaboration with my server number 2, okay? And then the collaboration type, that's the trick. So you come down here and look for Identity LDAP pool, okay? So select that. This opens up. You need to check this installed, or you can do it later once you finish the configuration. So what this allows you to do, this is basically turns the configuration on and off. So if you uncheck, configuration won't run, and if you check it like that, now once you finish the configuration, then this will be able to run just fine. And any part of the process you can always go back and check or uncheck as needed. So right over here you're going to go and enter the IP address or name of your server, right? Your Active Directory server. So it's very important, again, that you work with the end user IT department to obtain all this information. So enter the IP address. So I'm going to go ahead and enter the IP address of my server here. And then port, I'll just keep the same port. I'm not using SSL, so if the system, if the Active Directory from your end user is utilizing SSL, all you have to do is just check that, right? So again, check that with the network administrator for your end user. Here you're gonna enter the username and password. This username is not just a simple name with a password. You see that the way that name is added using LDAP languages is slightly different. I'm going to stop here, save this record, and then I'm going to show you one that I already have this configuration created. Okay, so let's go and take a look. Again, I'm going to hit collaboration. So notice that again I can have multiple collaborations with different servers. So I'm going to show you one that is already created so we can go over it and understand how this works. So here it is. This is the actual username. So it's composed by the username itself, the name, looking into the users group, and this is the domain controller, and then the password related to that user. So the network administrator of the end user should give you a valid username and password, and most likely they will add this name here for you, or at least get their help to understand how that works. Okay, so once you have that name, that username and that password enter, you're gonna hit save, and then these tabs will show up. So let's go ahead and describe them very quickly. The schedule is where you're going to schedule, once the configuration is complete, you're going to schedule the system to run in X amount of seconds, minutes, hours, or days. So you can go and pick whatever option, whatever is more necessary to the customer. The difference there will be, you have to consider is how much updates or how many updates are being done in the system. And based on that, you can work with the network administrator, you can go and adjust that. It's always a value that you can go and change it at any given time. So if you're doing too little or too much updates and you're tasking the system or the network too much, then you can go and change all that. The next one is the identity tab, is one of the most important ones. So this is where you're going to basically map the fields in ACM with the fields in the Active Directory, so the information from Active Directory can be synchronized, it can be added into ACM. Tokens is another tab, so tokens, badges, whatever you want to call that, credentials. Normally we don't have many customers that utilize this because it's not everyone that keeps their credentials on the Active Directory. It's not very common to do that, but is there in case a customer, for whatever the reason, they have that functionality, they want, they have that information in the Active Directory, they can go and link that. Blob is basically pictures, images. So if the Active Directory has all the employees' images, you could also link that or map the fields where the images are holding in Active Directory to bring those images into ACM. User-defined field, very important. That's very valid because some customers will have certain fields that we don't by default have in ACM. I'll give you an example. Let's say that in the Active Directory, customers holding license plates for every employee cars, right? ACM does not have that field by default, but you can just quickly go through here in the settings under user fields and create some of those fields, name the fields where you need it, and then they will appear in the user defined fields. And then after that, again, just a matter of linking the field in ACM with that field that holds that information in the Active Directory. Rows allow you to bring the rows or access groups from Active Directory into ACM. Most customers don't like to do that because they want to keep separate whatever rows they have in the Active Directory from ACM. You could utilize it. It's a matter of mapping it properly, and if you need more information about that, you can always contact tech support and they'll provide you a little more details on that. So let's go ahead and go into the Identities tab, right? So this will be the main. I'm going to concentrate on the Identities tab and show you how this works. So when you click there, it brings this screen. So right over here, it talks, this is the server name. So similar to what you saw in the initial screen where we have the login name. So this is pointing to the table, or the database, better saying, the database for users. And within the database of users, we are filtering into the person's database. Once again, make sure that you involve your network administrator to provide you this information. If that's not available and you still need to do this, tech support, Vigilant Tech Support will provide you some documentation that allow you to do some of this configuration, understand how to configure, how to use this proper nomenclature. Okay, and then after that is basically mapping. Now you're going to go and do mapping fields. So the ones here on this side are the fields in ACM. Inside the box are the fields in Active Directory. All we have to do now is just match them. For a complete list of the fields available in Active Directory, you can go in Google and search for user fields or fields from LDAP or Active Directory, and there's some good websites that will show you that. But again, if you have tech support, or if you have the end user IT department with you, they can quickly go through this and provide you this information. So if you remember in the first slides that I showed you about some of the prerequisites, that's where this comes to play. So you need to have that information and then just start addressing that. So here it is. So first name in Active Directory is called given name. Last name is called SN. Object GUI is a unique identifier that I've selected from Active Directory. The customer can utilize that or any other unique identifier they may already have in use in Active Directory. Very important, you need to use that, because otherwise the synchronization won't work properly. We need to make sure that we know a user not just by first and last name, but also by a unique identifier. And then any other information in here is optional. You can just go and enter anything you need, or maybe say, I'm just going to go and bring in just the first and last name and title, whatever that is, you can bring it in. On the first run, so when you run this for the first time, the first synchronization, I would suggest you leave this field in blank. So you see here that says when changed. So this means the system is just going to look for items that have been changed in Active Directory after the synchronization, after the last synchronization you did with AD. So the idea is leave this in blank first, do the first load, so you load all the information in, and after that go back and just add that when changed. And what's going to happen is this will only bring information or items that have been updated in Active Directory. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and save that. I already did. So let's go and take a look. So here it is installed. So that's the button that I was telling you about, that you can click install and uninstall to turn this on and off. I already ran this before, but let's go ahead and hit preview. So preview and run. So this is how you actually run it. Preview, as the name says, allow you to do a preview before you run the system. Always a good idea. I always suggest customers to hit the preview first, because what this will do, it will show you how many items you have on the system, and if there is any errors, any issues, you're basically going to see them somewhere down here. For example, this is a good line for you to go look at it, see no errors right there. That's a good thing. And the system skipped one item. So I have one user in my AD that I've created to add to this presentation. So once I run this, we're gonna have that user. So let's go and take a look. So first of all, I'm gonna go here in identities, do a search, and show you the amount of items I have. So right now that is 16 users in the ACM identities database. Okay, we're gonna go to collaboration once again, and now I'm gonna go ahead and run that collaboration. I already did the preview and I didn't see any errors, so my configuration looks good. So I'm just gonna go ahead and run that again. Now it's going actually to add items into my database, and that's it. It's almost done now. Now it's done. So stop successfully. That's a good thing. And then over here you can see how many items were added or what happened into the system. Okay, so apparently we skipped one item, so let's go take a look at it. So I can go hit identity, search, and here it is. Actually no, it did add the item right there. So now if you go here, I have this is what the item that I add. Sandra Jones. If I click on that, here's the information I brought in. First, last name, title, status is always active when you add an item. And this is the unique identifier that's coming in from Active Directory. Okay, and any other information that you add will display in this screen. Okay, and that's pretty much it. So any other items or any other information you add, if you had added a picture, you would see the picture over here. Other than that, that's how the collaboration works.